Trying. There it goes. All right, we're live. We're trying something new. We're trying something new this time. So often in these live hangouts, we found that it takes a few minutes for them to kind of populate, and we always launch straight into our welcomings and our sales pitches and our questions, and I feel like that actually eliminates a lot of people from catching the answers to that stuff. Now, obviously, after the fact, you can go back and you can watch the beginning of a YouTube clip, but I feel like we're all, this is, when you're done with something, you go to the next thing. So we're trying something new this time. Aaron and I are just going to talk to one another for like 5 minutes now while you guys hop into the chat room. And once there are a handful of you, then we'll actually kick the show off for real. So that's we'll see how it goes. Brew, what's up? Good morning.
Have we determined what we're going to do if I don't want to talk with you, Dan?
Dude, you know I can talk to myself.
We did cover quite a bit of ground in our text messages last night.
Can we talk about poison oak at the beginning of this show?
I just told my story. I don't want to. I mean, Dan's got poison oak, everybody. No, he's got mosquito bites. Is that right?
I got savaged by a gang of angry Mar Vista mosquitoes.
Now, nobody's going to care except for the population like myself that gets bit relentlessly by mosquitoes. And nobody else cares. My wife never gets bit. She does not care. She leaves the door open as sport to watch me writhe in pain.
Do we know why that happens? There's theories.
She's crazy. She's crazy. That's why it happens, Dan.
No, I mean, like, why do you get bit? Why do I get bit? Why do you get bit? Because I guess I can.
We were in Hawaii, and actually the tables turned, and so maybe it has to do with the location, the type of mosquito.
It must be. It must have to. I've heard that it has something to do with what you eat. That like different people give off different scents based on what foods they've consumed, and so. I mean, if that was me, it'd be a lot of sugar. I have very sugary blood. I eat a lot of Pop-Tarts, and I drink a lot of juice.
So you have the diet of a 12-year-old is what you're saying?
Yes, I do, actually. So in a few years, my kid and I, we can...
That's amazing, man. You stay thin and in shape, and you eat sugar, and there you
know what
go.
The key to that is? You want to know the secret?
Sure.
Get irritable bowel syndrome.
Yeah, that's not a good trade-off. I think I'll skip that one.
Once every couple of weeks, you just don't... Like, there you go, like half a day where you just don't really want to eat anymore. And so it all resets itself. And the other 13 and a half out of the 14 days, you eat Pop-Tarts and you drink orange juice and eat Chef Boyardee canned things for lunch.
Dude, that's like one of my favorite. You're talking about the Chef Boyardee spaghetti and meatballs?
Like the spaghetti and meatballs or like the mini ravioli.
All right, going ravioli that's a bridge too far. But those spaghetti and meatballs...
What about SpaghettiOs?
No. I think the spaghetti and meatballs that's the apex of the Chef Boyardee palette. You've got the sauce is actually, I would love to see them take that sauce into Gordon Ramsay's restaurant or something and have him serve it to Gordon Ramsay and have him say, "Oh man, this sauce is amazing. What did you do with it?" Well, it's Chef Boyardee. You may have
do
heard
it like
of him.
Like the 85 Domino's commercials over the last decade where people are like, "This is delicious. What am I eating right? What fancy Italian restaurant is this?" And they're like, "Well, this is a Domino's pizza that's been sitting in my car."
It's not even the pizza, it's the pasta. Have you heard that bit by, what's his name? Jim Gaffigan? Was it Gaffigan?
Yeah, I think it is. I know the one you're talking about. It's outstanding.
Just going to keep adding more carbs. If you wanted more bread, we have breadsticks with bread on top or something crap like that.
So to those that are starting to roll in, by the way, there's a couple of you now. We're just killing a little bit of time while the chat room populates and while you guys hit us with a few questions. Once things pick up, then we'll get this thing rolling. Someone in the chat room asked if it was choppy. It's tough for us to tell on our end. I'm plugged in via Ethernet, so it should be working fine. But if there's something going on and if everybody's experiencing it, let us know and we'll take a look at that. But Brew and I are just talking about whatever for a couple of minutes now, and we'll get into the basketball stuff momentarily. So if you're here, just chill for a minute, and if you're joining shortly, then you don't know what I'm saying right now anyway. That was not my best move.
Yeah, what are you talking about?
I'm Dan Besbris.
What was going through your mind as you said that?
I was thinking how long before we start this thing. Honestly, that was like, all right, it's been like 4 or 5 minutes. Do we give them another few? I'm thinking probably. But I mean,
yeah, let's talk about the idea of having hoop ballers stand in front of fancy premiere-like backdrops. This is one of the ideas we had. We got all this serious stuff going on, so we have to take breaks every once in a while and get just completely ridiculous. We want to have, for like pictures, one of your buddies is doing some stuff with us and trying to figure out if he was this guy or the other guy that Dan told me about once. So I search, and he's standing in front of a fancy backdrop because he's an important person, and that always signifies important person if you're standing in front of a fancy backdrop, like at a movie premiere or something like that. So we thought, we're going to get all the hoop ballers to stand in front of a fancy backdrop. But I think the difference is we're going to have everybody do their best to look as terrible as possible, like they haven't slept for weeks, probably looking a little intoxicated, maybe like they could use a good sandwich to help them through the day. And that's really the brand that we're looking to pursue here at Hoob Ball.
That's the Hoob Ball way. Should we go into more detail about what the fancy background was we were considering?
Well, see, I think, didn't you requested that we order hoop ball shower curtains for some reason?
I did.
As a, I guess, a piece of swag that we could give both our riders as well as the readers.
Yeah. Plus, it was to me like, you guys are all looking at my bedroom again right now. This is going to be a permanent situation. And I thought a really cheap way to deal with that would be to put like just a little eye loop over here and then a little eye loop over there. And I could run a shower curtain across that joint, and then I could just pull it back to the wall during normal business hours over here.
I was going to say,
I don't want to put a pole across. I don't want to put a pole across my bedroom. That looks ridiculous.
I was going to say, like, nothing says I don't get laid like a hoop ball shower curtain. You're going to invite a girl to your house. What's that? Well, I'm a really big fan of hoop ball. Well, what's that?
Well, let me tell you a little bit about hoop-ball.com. Well, they've got you can get a sweet t-shirt that says, what's the pizza delivery if not? Wait, what was the line you did last year?
Oh, the Willie Cauley-Stein. We
still have hoop ball t-shirts. We got to get those going.
I gotta get in there and pitch Willie on the what is it? What is pizza except for sauce, bread, cheese, and dedication or something?
Yeah, that's right. Dedication is the one.
It was such a perfect quote because you could see Willie saying that, and then it went viral, and that was my second fake quote that went viral. And I really got to stop doing that because when that happens. The Ballmer tweet still goes around, man. There'll be like a day where like I see one person hit, the Ballmer tweet with a retweet or a comment about it. And I go, oh man, here we go again. And it just catches steam. And then like, there'll be about 10 to 20, 30, maybe even 100 people that just start bringing that Ballmer tweet back up. And I'm sitting there going, man,
oh no,
you didn't see the tweet before. You didn't see the tweets during the night, but it is funny. And, yeah, so no, I think a hoop ball shower curtain would definitely be something we should have.
It would really tie the room together.
It would, but especially like if you put the thing behind you, I mean, the jokes are they're just going to write themselves.
Are they better or worse than the joke that, oh my God, Dan's doing this show in his freaking bedroom?
See, that's going to be something we look back on, and there's going to be video evidence of all of this crap. So we're really screwed on a number of different levels. But when we look back in time, that's going to be one of those things. It's the humble beginnings. It's the garage, whole garage deal. And you know what? One day we'll construct a set. I don't know if you saw that. It was Silicon Valley episode where they made this kind of garage. It was Gavin Newsom. I don't know if he's still in the. Gavin makes the massive scale of his garage, and it's inside this massive hangar. So we'll just make a set that's exactly to the detail.
I love that show. If anybody out there hasn't watched Silicon Valley and you're into fantasy sports, I feel like not that like fantasy users would love nerdy stuff, but aren't we kind of that? We're that demographic. We're sports nerds.
Speaketh for yourself, Besbris.
Oh, come on now.
There's no nerd here.
Yeah. How many hours did you put into that B-150?
Totally nerdy amount.
Yeah, that's what I was. So here's a cool little thing, and then we can start the show because we actually have a few people that have joined up now, and the number I'm sure will tick up as we go. One of the moms in our Mommy and Me class was the assistant director on like half a season of Silicon Valley. So that's kind of neat. This is, by the way, this is what happens when you live in West LA. You go to Mommy and Me and you meet the people.
Do you think they're going to survive the loss of what's his TJ?
He's not on the show anymore.
Yeah, he's gone. And then I saw his comedy special, which was just really weird. I mean,
is that the one where he douses himself in water at the end?
Yeah, he's got this whole absurdist comedy thing, which I actually really like. I feel like we've gone away from that. We went to like observational comedy past the Seinfeld days, and now it's the kind of that. Who's the director that does almost every movie these days? The Adam McKay, I think. Or
yeah, he did a lot of comedies, and then I think he did the one about the financial crisis, right? The Big Short. McKay did that one too. Well, it's either that or the guy who does all the Jennifer Lawrence movies.
No, well,
David O. Russell.
I think what's his? I don't know. Anyway, it's all gotten observational, and so to take it back to absurdist, which is kind of what people our old ass age have grew up with. I liked it, but he got really weird, and he would have these hilarious bits, and you could see he had traction, and then he might take it like 10 steps too far. And you can see he knew he was taking it 10 steps. He could continue along the funny path, but he's like, I'm going to go for the home run here and weave together this absurdist comedy. And then it would fall flat, and then he would make fun of himself, and it was still good, but he left a lot of money on the table. Anyway, I don't know. They got the new guy who's Haley Joel Osment. Is that right?
No, come on.
Yeah, he's the new VC that funds everything, and he's got this good personality. He's not like he was in what was it, Entourage, where he was this total dick. He's now a cool guy, so I don't know how they're going to bounce out of that.
Interesting. It's funny too.
I would be ashamed if the show doesn't work anymore.
Yeah, I never really liked TJ Miller's stand-up stuff. I thought he was a guy that was always better when someone gave him like a nice rigid.
But you know, on Silicon Valley, they don't. They just freestyle, which is good.
That makes sense.
I mean, there's structure. You know,
yeah, like
he just turn on the camera and he goes.
Kind of
like us, Dan.
Yeah, the Curb Your Enthusiasm route, which I think that's back in 2 weeks too. Hey, so I think this is enough now to actually hit the go button. To those of you that joined us, that listened to Aaron and myself talk about Silicon Valley, that's swell. I'm going to now officially start the live chat. So make sure everybody's comfortable. Aaron, you comfortable?
Yeah.
I'm not. These bug bites keep me extremely uncomfortable. What's happening, everybody? Welcome to Fantasy NBA Today, a live edition. You like that? Nobody's ever going to know that there were 10 minutes before
that was a change-up if I've ever seen one, Dan.
Yeah, that's how I do. I'm Dan Besbris, and the architect, El Arquitecto, es Aaron Bruski. I'm jumping right into something that has nothing to do with anything, but I know you're in one of our Fan Tracks listener leagues, and I was sort of scrolling through them last night to make sure all the settings were right and the drafts weren't banging into one another, and I was looking at the teams, and I'm scrolling down, and all of a sudden I see El Arquitecto. Oh, that's the one that Bruski's in. So if you see El Arquitecto, put two and two together, folks.
Did you get the GIF of the image in its totality?
No,
I might have sent it to you. It's a great GIF. It's the architect from the Matrix, and so you know how he has that long rant in the movie, and it just says blah 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 blah, and then Neo makes a face or something, and that would be me. I'm the blah 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 guy.
That's a brilliant animated GIF. Yeah, there's a whole lot of Latin. That was Matrix 2, I think, right? Where things really got super weird.
That was the one everybody had such high hopes for. Actually, I worked at a company where they took us all to go see that movie as a, just a, I guess, group activity. And we all left that feeling Like, what the hell did you guys do to this great concept? Boo.
Yeah. Whoops. Anyway, basketball. If you want to listen to Aaron and myself talk about random BS, you can go to this YouTube link. This is for the people that are listening later on via the traditional podcast stream. This is a live show, and Aaron and I will be doing roughly one of these every week from now until the end of the NBA season. It's an opportunity for us to talk directly to you during a podcast. It's an opportunity right now, in particular, to just give you a little bit of an example of some products that are available at Hoopball. So, yes, there's going to be a bit of an infomercial feel to different parts of this show. But on the whole, this is a sweet opportunity for you guys to hit us with questions, and generally, we get to all of them, although there were times last year during the middle of the season where we got like 30 or 40 questions, and the really specific ones, we did have to jump over a little bit. But so if you're listening to the podcast after the fact, if you're listening on your traditional Libsyn, the feed channel on your phone or a computer or whatever it is, keep an eye out at Hoopball Tweets, at Aaron Bruski, at Dan Besbris. We'll be letting you know the next time we're doing a live podcast. You can come join us in the YouTube chat room for that, or you can go watch it there after the fact as well. Follow us on Twitter regardless, because good things are happening. But Aaron, yeah.
I'm putting my hand up, Dan.
Aaron, in the back. Do you have the answer to this trigonometry question?
I do not know what you're saying, but I'm going to say, just as a reminder, this is the last free premium chat before we go into the season. So the rest of them for the next 3.5 weeks, or however many weeks we've got until the season go, they're going to be for Draft Guide subscribers. So that is our way of giving you guys a little bit of an added edge. We kind of work with a balance here. We want people to get information, for free, but we also know that if we put everything out in, say, 30 days to go, you guys will not have any profit on any of these plays that we're going to tell you about. So that's kind of our way of protecting the information. And for the next 3.5 weeks, these will be for Draft Guide subscribers.
So that is a little bit of an edge. And then after the season begins, yes, as I was saying, Aaron and I do usually have a live chat per week. It's often on Fridays, hence Fun Shirt Fridays. If you're new, you'll experience that weirdness shortly. But also, the premium live chats happen all the time. So that's a reason for folks to get involved with the season pass, which has a nightly live chat with a Hoopball Pro. So if you have questions, you just hit them right there at night. You don't have to wait until the next day. Aaron, you do a waiver wire show on Sundays where you kind of wrap up the week and talk about key players that popped up or kind of fell off for you. And then you and I do a premium show on Mondays for weekly lineup leagues. Basically, again, it's for premium subscribers, but if you have to make a weekly lineup decision, we go through that on Monday, right smack in the middle of the day, kind of getting you ready for that week to begin. So still a lot of reasons, even once the season begins, to get the season pass. And right now, a nice reason to get the draft guide. Yes, Aaron.
Also, if you what we're talking about is the in-season premium product. And so there's two different products. So you got your draft guide and you got your in-season premium product. The in-season's obviously for the in-season, draft guides for now. In-season premium product goes on sale right around the beginning of the year for $29.99. So if you buy what we are calling the season pass, you get both the draft guide, which is normally $17.99, the in-season premium membership, which is $29.99, which altogether would cost you $46.98, I believe. You get it for $34.99 on the season pass. So if you know you're going to be a part of this, and really the value in that in-season product is immense because you get 6 months of this where you have that one-to-one feedback. We're still small enough to where chances are you're going to get your question answered every night. As we grow, we're going to have to probably just add more stuff to keep up with the demand. But the in-season premium product and the draft guide together in the season pass for $34.99 is the best way to get that. And if you start doing the coupons that have been flying around the site, the survey coupon, that's a no-brainer. That's $2 off on basically you just have to do a 10-second survey and send us the screenshot to either Hoopball Tweets, Dan, or myself. And then you get $2 off anything. So that's a no-brainer. And then we have various promotions that kick up every once in a while. But I will last shill on this is the price of the draft guide goes up after tonight. It goes from $13.99 to $15.99. So you guys that are sitting out there, this is probably your best chance to save a bunch of money.
Yeah, there you go. They were warned, man. I told them there was going to be some infomercial pieces to this one. So that's the price you pay for getting questions answered live.
We try to do this strategically, so people get what they want. Like last, I guess, thing on product stuff is, if you just want the Bruski 150, you don't want the 350 pages of analysis that myself and Mike Pandador wrote up. It's 150,000 words, actually more than all of that. It is great. It is the best draft guide that I've been a part of, and it's not even close. So if you don't want that, which you probably should get that, it's got all sorts of stuff in it, including the RotoBalance app, which is great on its own. You just get the Bruski 150. There's an early access to that right now. If you don't do early access, you get it for free as a part of your draft guide on 10/1. But if you need it before then, for whatever reason, and I've heard you say this, Dan, and I totally agree with it. If you don't have a draft like this week, or you're just not, if you can hold off for a week, you just wait and you get it for free. But if you need it early and you're a draft guide subscriber, it's $9.99. Let's say you want nothing to do with the draft guide and you need it early, it's $29.99. And having this in place is a way for us to basically keep the information from disseminating too quickly and timing it perfectly. So when we release this stuff, you still get 30, 40, 50 ranks of value on some of these guys.
Yeah, it's funny that it almost seems like we're working against ourselves at times. Like you could, and I know this is a little bit of a used car salesman kind of thing, but it feels like, Aaron, you could actually sell more of this stuff if you wanted to, and by doing it this way, it's more about the people that really truly want it, and it's more about winning than making a quick buck. I mean, it's a little bit of a...
And that's also why we do the $9.99 early. So if you buy the draft guide early with us, you get it for $9.99, and we do that so like our kind of core group of subscribers get it for $9.99 almost every year, and that's just that's half the cost of any other guide out there. I mean, I don't know how long we'll be able to do that for our kind of company's sake, but as far as the folks that have been here early and giving them something, like, I know our guide is twice as good as almost, I mean, I can't, maybe there's somebody out there that's got one better, but the stuff I see, it's twice as comprehensive. I believe the analysis is better, and it's just got more stuff. So you're getting a better product for half the price. It's really a no-brainer. But yeah, as we get going, the price goes up, and eventually it'll be $17.99 here real quick.
I got a question for you, Brew, before we get into the live chat. This was something I posted in the forums, and I thought this was kind of an interesting exercise in how you think about the ends of your draft. The end and a little bit before that, I guess, if you wanted to, like the last 30%-ish, something like that. By the way, if you guys listening have an opinion on this, go to hoop-ball.com and click on the forums tab. There's a lot going on there right now that has Aaron and myself quite excited. The question that I posed in the forum, and it's one that I've tossed on Fantasy NBA Today in the past, and your thoughts is one that I've been kind of waiting to pluck, is let me create a hypothetical scenario for you. Not too horribly complicated, but you do kind of have to just set yourself up and kind of forget player names in the process. Around pick 80 or 90, and there's some argument to be made for semantics on this, but for me, I think it has to do with the size of the league. The smaller the league, the earlier this point is. So 12-team league, probably somewhere around pick 90. There comes a point at which the math shows that almost all the players are exactly the same. You can go to Basketball Monster and look at the player rankings, and like from pick 90 to pick 140, there's a difference in player value to your team of like 1/10 of a point. So I'm not making this up. I'm taking real numbers. I mean, the same difference between Russell Westbrook and Chris Paul in the first round is the same thing as like player 90 to player 140. It's that crazy. when you get to this point in a draft, if you have a 100% chance, and again, nothing's 100%, but for this hypothetical, you have a 100% chance at pick 90 of getting a guy that has the 95th ranked value at the end of the year. He's going to be number 95. I can tell you right now, at pick 90, you can pick number 95. Or I give you this option. I roll a 4-sided coin or a die or flip a 4-sided coin or something like that, and you got a 1 in 4 chance of drafting a guy at number 90 that's a top 65 guy, and a 3 in 4 chance that he's like, basement, top 250, just useless. He's on your waiver wire within 3 weeks. Which one of those routes do you take and why?
Well, Dan, you've started off with a very hyper-focused question.
I mean, this is like how to prepare for the end of a draft, right? This is something that you got to put in your head. And on the podcast, I've also sort of eliminated the specific situation where you have like a 3-center league and you need a really safe center at pick 90, and so you take Marcin Gortat or something like that, and he's going to be a top 100 guy. Fine, eliminate that situation in a vacuum. Which direction do you lean on this one?
I think I'm gonna have to work at staring at the camera with a smile on my face like an analyst on a TV program might do, because I just gotta look around and do stuff. But okay, in a vacuum, who we're talking about here is Jordan Clarkson. That's who you're talking about. He does this, I think, 2 years in a row, and he's going to get 30 minutes per game. And kind of what that stat set's going to be. And it's really easy to predict. And it's right at that cusp of where he would be useful for the back end of your lineup. And so, yes.
Well, you've de-vacuumed it. That's fine. We can put a name to the guy. It could be him. It could be, Gortat. It could be like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. Someone that's a very safe 100. He's going to be at 100.
I would quibble with those two names as far as this example goes, but to just kind of keep it general, like this, to me, the answer is it comes back to your team. If you're looking at it generally in a vacuum, I'm going to take the upside guy every time because I'm
rolling the dice. That's what I'm doing too.
Yeah, but you put odds on it, really. You put 1 in 4 odds on it. So that would then, if you played that out, the difference in value between that top 90 play and the top 65 play is fairly substantial.
Yeah.
But you have a 1 in 4 chance of getting it, and you really just kind of back into a math question. I don't know the answer right off the top of my head. I'm just going to say that I'm taking the upside every single time, but there is a scenario where you do take Jordan Clarkson, and that is you have, almost like myself, you've taken a bunch of risks. Maybe you've taken a couple injury guys, and it's the end of your draft, and now you need somebody to get you through the first couple weeks and just do it in a way that's, agreeable with your team. And that might be a scenario where if you couldn't maybe get the handcuff to that player, like, I don't think anybody behind Ersan Ilyasova is really kind of jumping off the board. But you take Ersan Ilyasova because the Hawks are going to rely on him early on. He's probably going to get 27 minutes per game early in the year, and he's probably going to be a top 125 guy. If there was somebody behind him that had any real pop, I don't want to go to Mike Muscala, but somebody behind him in the mold of a young player with upside, if you could pair those two, that would be probably ideal. But still, yeah, you're looking at injury guys as the only scenario where I take the top 90 guy.
Yeah, that's the direction I was leaning to. It's an interesting exercise in sort of, how team build, right? This is an exercise in team building and the kind of things you should be thinking about as you prepare yourself for, in particular, fast drafts. Standard 90-second, 60-second snake drafts where you got to be ready to go. You queue those guys up ahead of time, and you have to be aware of kind of the makeup of your team getting into that point. But yeah, I mean, last year was probably a good example, Brew, because we all ended up with this host of, there was like the Drew Holiday, who wasn't injured himself, but we knew he was going to miss time. The Darren Collisons, who was suspended DUI, was it? If memory serves, something off the court. I ended up with Dirk, who was out for a while, and Rob Covington, who was basically unplayable for a few weeks, and Jokic last year, who was effectively unplayable for about a month. So at that point, yeah, you could see your 90th, 100th pick, you're like, I need a guy that can really be, I can count on this dude because I'm probably going to have to bench 3 or 4 other guys to start my year. But if you don't have that type of risk going into that point, almost any chance, I could have made it even more sides to the die or sides to the coin. And I think I'm still taking the risk. Aren't you? Like, what if I said 1 in 6? Wouldn't you still take the risk?
Yeah. I mean, just that's me though. I might in a league that's very competitive be, a little less inclined to do that.
Right. In bigger leagues, the point is later on. A 14, 16 team league, that point is probably past the 110.
I'm actually just talking about better players. Like, I can be in a 12-team league where all of the good late round guys that you would want on a team are gone. And so you're really now looking at the true plotters, which are the Tristan Thompsons of the world that sit at about 150 and they play every game, and that clears into top 110. The Amir Johnson from last year's, these guys that are ranking kind of monsters for what they actually do in the box score. You're looking at those guys. In those leagues, I might be a little bit more discerning about passing on a Jordan Clarkson to go for, say, like, I don't know, Jeremy Lamb, and really what I'm looking for, just kind of round it out, is guys that are projected to go in that late round territory, but currently have low minute per game projections. Reason being is you give yourself room to expand, and you're already kind of at the floor. Now, some of these guys might play less than we project, but if I got a 22-minute guy, I'm very strong on that projection, and that's a top 150 value. That to me is better than a Jordan Clarkson that's fully leveraged at 30 minutes per game and still giving you only that top 90.
Thank you, my good man. That was my question. Just to you warmed up yet?
Yeah, Dan, I'm warmed up. Let's do this.
Let's see what we got going on over in the chat room. I will shrink one window on my computer screen and open up another, and let's see what we got. A lot of familiar faces, actually. That's kind of nice.
Where Tiberius at?
Not that one. We got the
we need to
Collins
send a search party out for Tiberius.
Yeah, put out an APB on Tiberius. Hey, you okay, man? We got the Collins brothers. We got our boy Beans. We got Frank, me, and DeKangs. We got Tama. He works here now. What are you doing, Tama?
Hey, I got a couple of them. Pandador says people got to buy the draft guide because his fingers hurt.
Well, that's good because now his back's going to hurt. You gave me an opportunity to tell you that Panda's pulled landscaping duty. I'm not going to miss that opportunity. I think I made that joke on a podcast last year. Let's see. What do we got? What's the first question on the docket here? Brew, tell me something interesting while I read through this chat room.
Okay. Something interesting is Joel Embiid is not played in 5-on-5 yet. And there's a video out there of Brett Brown, who suddenly has responsibility this year, according to Brian Colangelo, which is him trying to shove that dude out the door. But the way he looked at the end of that video kind of reminded me of all last year, he being Brett Brown. He looked like, I don't want to talk about this. Please don't ask me these questions. I'm not going to give you the answer, and nobody really knows how Joel Embiid is doing. Now, he might just be like kind of programmed now to look that way, to look all freaked out about injuries, because the way the Sixers handle injuries is really, really weird. But no 5-on-5, that's not good. No clear answer, that's not good. You kind of expect them to brag about Joel Embiid if he's really, really good to go. That's not happened. We got a long way to go before we get really good intel. But I'm probably on my next Bruski 150 update pulling him back a little bit just until I can see that he's playing. I mean, if he's not playing, I don't know how they just run him out there without kind of, doing the no back-to-backs or, the minute restrictions. And it's just not a good start. He's very highly ranked. I saw him go doing a mock draft at the ITL guys on 2 nights ago, something like that. I want to say he went like 23. Like, it's the Joel Embiid hype is definitely there. And this will ice it down a little bit when he gets on the practice floor, it'll probably jump right back up. But, you know, that's probably the interesting thing of the day.
I don't think, by the way, Joel Embiid ended up last year as the number 200 guy by totals. That's what happens when you don't play very many games.
I trust that process.
That's
how many people got screwed on that?
You know, how many people had him?
The hype for him last year was just kind of dumb.
So let me ask you this on the Joel Embiid front, because last week we talked about how we could basically dedicate an entire show to him. He only played 31 games when all was said and done. They were kid gloving him through 31 games, and he still couldn't make it. It worries me that he's like the league's woolly mammoth.
They jacked him up. They put him back on the floor after he got hurt. Like, that was dumb. It was almost transparent. They were trying to sell tickets. And
could his numbers be better this year when he's on the floor? That's an interesting question, right? He averaged 20 points, 8 rebounds, a steal, 2.5 blocks, 1.2 3-pointers, 2 assists, and he shot 78% from the foul line, so he didn't kill you there, although certainly his volume was pretty high, so kind of a wash. About 47% from the field, and really the one thing he did that wasn't good, he averaged almost 4 turnovers per game. I mean, this is a team that if the rest of the Sixers are healthy, doesn't his usage have to come down a tiny bit? I mean, how do you reconcile that in your mind? Because he's a huge question mark.
Well, let's just say I got him really high, you know, like higher than I'm probably comfortable with in my ranks. That's before this piece of news, but and we'll see how that all plays out. I mean, you got to kind of let this stuff settle for at least 24 hours before you really make a move on it. But the usage is definitely something that we recognized in crafting projections in the Bruski 150. So that's not like, you know, we're going into this season thinking he's going to do exactly what he did in terms of ball handling and stuff like that. That said, his stat set is insane. He's got almost everything that you want him to have. He turns the ball over way too much, but everything else is in a great place. Theoretically, he gets better at the game of basketball, and he can improve even more on this just incredible stat set. So, yeah, there's some volume issues that are present, but he's also not about to hand the ball to Ben Simmons or Markelle Fultz and say, hey, you run the team. He's going to take the ball. He thinks he's the point guard. And it's going to be that whole interplay between those three players is worth the price of a league pass on its own. So I think that you're really just looking at a phenomenal story from fantasy, reality, you name it. I don't think you can take him in the second round. I think that's just crazy. In the third round, it's definitely one of the more intriguing moves of the draft. In the fourth round, I don't care. I'm going to take him in the fourth, barring some really bad news.
I mean, is he going to fall the fourth round?
No. This is who's got the biggest balls in the room.
It's not me.
You know, it really is, because you could take him third and then really have a first round asset as long as he plays, say, 66 games, 64 games, something like that. That's really, really doable, you know, when you really think about it. But he would have to start this season without, you know, to me, I think if I'm betting on the over under 64, 66 games played, I want to see him on the floor in preseason. I want to see him, you know, in workouts and practices, 5-on-5s. Like, if they're going into the year saying, well, we just got to limit the amount of actual time this guy exerts physical energy, you know, that to me says there's going to be back-to-backs off. There's going to be time off. There's going to be a big old injury potential there. And I probably got to downgrade him to, like, say, the top 40. And then who knows? You could have an overreaction in draft season where maybe we get a big piece of bad news, you know, or strangely, not strangely bad news, but just kind of like unsourced and kind of not necessarily strong news. And he plummets. He goes top 45, top 50. You know, now you're really looking at the reverse scenario. And that's why he is one of the probably the most fascinating player in the draft this year.
I don't know off the top of my head how many back-to-backs the Sixers have in a season. I assume most teams, isn't it somewhere between like 8 and 12?
Yeah.
So if you assume that he's missing most of those. Like, let's just give him 8 games off for maintenance. Then you put his max at 74. I mean, could he conceivably be healthy for all 74 games? I'm inclined to say probably not.
Yeah, if they auto sit him on back-to-backs, and you're looking at that math right there, I don't think he goes over. It'll obviously help his durability that they do that. It's probably smart. And then as important are the minutes. That's another thing we just don't know is they're sitting on a logjam of players in so many different ways. But, so if he's playing 30 minutes per game, that's high risk. If he's playing 20, that's probably not great for fantasy owners, but it's probably better for his longevity. So aggregate minutes will probably be the best way to look at it. Now, that might not help you depending on your format. If you're in a playoff format, you probably want him to play 10 minutes a game all the way until the end of the year and then, have him strike in your playoffs. Roto leagues, you just kind of don't care. You look at it as an aggregate and, hopefully you get the most out of him that you can. And then if you got to move on, you move on. But he is fascinating. It is a big old bet in the 3rd round. And whether or not you go all risk and just say, you know what, I'm either going to win this league or I'm going to finish 12th. Like, it's
here's the pop quiz, I guess, that can maybe answer some of the risk reward scenarios. Aaron, off the top of your head, remember last year or 2 years ago now, I think was when I asked you to name the only team we hadn't talked about after we talked about 29 teams. This one might be tougher, but you've been staring at numbers a lot lately, so you might get it. Can you name me how many players in the top 25 played fewer than 70 games? So 69 or less. How many players in the top 25?
Last year.
This is by totals, too. So, obviously, it has to be because I'm
last year.
Last year.
Oh, man.
How many in the top 25 played fewer than 70 games?
Fewer than 70? I'm going to go 3. I know one off the top of my head is Durant.
80 is the easy one. The other one is Chris Paul.
Yeah.
Number 25. He was number 25. He was the last one in that group at 61 games, which I think is a good indicator, right? How hard it is to crack the top 15.
But if anybody can do it, it's this guy. It's his stat set is absurd. And we don't really have any sort of like concerns of him stopping blocking shots, I think. Like, if anything, he's probably going to get a little healthier, with another kind of half season off as far as just general springiness, compared to where he was at last season. His instincts probably get a little bit better. He hasn't really been pulled back. A lot of big men, they get pulled back after they get their big block totals.
This is fun. I like this. I'm like the wet blanket right now, and I'm really good at being the wet blanket.
Well, because you don't like risk, Dan.
I know. Let me ask you another question that's going to make you hate risk as much as I do. Can you name me the only player in the top 25 who averaged less than 30 minutes per game?
In the top 25 that averaged less than 30 minutes per game?
Mm-hmm. Over last season, one player in the top 25 averaged less than 30 minutes per game.
That is a good question.
And only 2, by the way, in the top 40.
Holy moly.
And
under 30 minutes, top 25.
You're going to love the answer to this one. Think who didn't play much for the first month and a half.
Oh, no. Yeah, no, I know who it is. It's Drew Holiday.
It is Nikola Jokic.
Oh, Jokic. Damn it.
28 minutes per game on the season because of that wretched start. The only player in the top 25 to average less than 30 minutes per game. And the only other one in the top 40 is Brook Lopez at 29.6 minutes per game. So another indicator. This is me. I'm going full wet blanket here. You got to play to get into that top group. I mean, I don't,
Yeah, no, you're right. No, you were absolutely right. You have to play. But where would I mean, Embiid, 60 games is top 25 potential.
Yeah.
In 8-cat for sure. 9-cat's a question mark.
I guess I probably should have illustrated that. I'm looking at 9-cat numbers right now. So yeah, 8-cat, I mean, that's a little bit of a different beast since he did have the 4 turnovers per game, but I don't know if I can touch him. you know how much I hate taking huge chances in the first 3 rounds of a draft. I need those guys to be good for me. I need them to be close my eyes, not worry about it, and all 3 of them are going to be fine, and then go crazy later, because it's that same kind of ROI thing with me, where if Embiid pans out, and what I'm referring to panning out in this situation is like 60 to 68 games at his clip, basically from last year, plus or minus a little bit, and that's probably early second round kind of totals numbers on the year. If that happens, does he win you your league outright? And the answer is probably not. I mean, he obviously makes your team better, but if he doesn't pan out, if he plays 35 games again and you have to drop your 3rd round pick halfway through the year or less, does he kill your team? And the answer to that is yes. And so I can't handle that in my brain, drafting a guy that could actually ruin my whole year single-handedly. All the other work I do might go down the toilet, but I'd have no chance to win the league if this guy doesn't make it through half a season. And so that, to me,
if he plays 30 minutes a game, he wins you your league, I think. Unless you really bomb out on your top picks. Yeah, I think so. We haven't seen a stat set like this really ever. He hits free throws. He shoots for a good percentage. He shoots threes. It's arguable whether or not the threes help him or not. But, rebounding, blocks, even the assists, he could be that kind of, Akeem Olajuwon, even though Olajuwon didn't shoot threes, that type of a stat set that puts you at the top of the kind of historical lists. It's possible there, but it's not probable. And to your point, I think when we look at 3rd round, and screw kind of adjusting for 9-cat, because I think 9-cat really puts him in a hole. 3rd round or early 3rd or late 2nd, there just is so much price tag to that. It's a gamble. And so the value out of the gamble is, probably you're taking I don't know, in gambling terms, it's like, minus 130 or plus 130 on your bet. Like it's a bad bet if you did it 100 times in a row, but
you just needed to hit one time.
Yeah, you just needed to hit once. And
there's also a big difference between the beginning and the end of the 3rd round. If you kind of want to split hairs a little bit, the beginning of the 3rd round, you can still get some guys that are hugely significant. By the end of the 3rd round, the value of these guys drops pretty precipitously. Now I'm looking at 8-cat numbers for this argument. The last player in the 3rd round last year was DeMar DeRozan. He was number 36.
Let's also play some devil's advocate here. Let's say you have the 1st overall pick, right? So you take whoever you think is first. I don't want to say who I think is first just yet.
Well, last year, the 1st overall pick in an 8-cat league would have been James Harden.
All right, so you take, and I'm not talking mixing and matching stat sets here. Just you take Harden, and you're in a 12-team league, and you're staring at the 24 pick. Let's say it's an intermediate league, and somebody that's probably top 15 drops down to you at 24. Maybe that they're top, say, 18 even, and they dropped you at 24. So now you've got a 1 and an 18, and that is pretty good. Like you feel pretty good about your team. And now you've bought yourself a little bit of margin to make a risk. It's very tempting in an 8-cat league to look at Embiid and go, okay, barring this injury news shaking out, of course, to say, I want to put the hammer down. Me with my top, 1, 18, and then this guy that could be a top 12 pick. If, all things work out, I'm going, okay, that's a championship squad. You can't really beat a top 1, a top 12, and a top, 15, 18 pick. Like, you're just going to win. The math is going to dictate that. Then if you don't hit for whatever reason, you still have your 4th and 5th and 6th round pick to kind of each move up a slot, where your 4th round pick would be in a top 48. You'd be the number 48 pick. You're sitting there looking, you go, I can get a top 30 guy. So now you've got an overall number 1 guy, you've got a top 15-ish guy, and now you've got a top 30-ish guy. Puts you in the ballpark to still compete and win your league.
You know, it's funny, as you were going through that scenario in my head, I was building the opposite team, which is, I've got the 1 and I've got the 18. If I just take a comfortable number 24 right now, I can do whatever the hell I want the rest of the draft. That's how mine works. My mind works versus
we balance each other. That's for sure. But that's that's why you got to have multiple perspectives on this stuff. The Bruski 150 is like it's aggressive. It's really aggressive, and that's my playing style. And there's something to be said for playing it safe. So you kind of got to look at what you're comfortable with, and then try to find complements to your strategy. If you're going to go all in on everything and pick all the risky guys, you just better know that this thing could end up as a number 12 team, in your league. If you go like 1 or 2 risky guys, maybe balance it out with a Jordan Clarkson at the end of your draft.
Way to bring that thing full circle. Nicely done.
The broadcast school is paying off.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Dynamite drop in, Monty. All right, let's take some questions from the crowd right now. I think we covered some pretty good stuff there, and I feel like a lot of people were wondering.
Relevant considering everybody's freaking out about Joel Embiid's health right now.
Yeah, right. I mean, this is something that needed to be addressed. Let's see here. I got distracted. The first question that came through is actually a hyper focused one. So, Eric, we're going to come back to yours if there's time at the end of the show. This is picking 5 keepers in an 8-cat league. That's a tough one. But we'll loop back to it, hopefully, if there's time at the end of the program. Jim Collins, at what point in the draft would you start to think about making a move on a guy like Josh Richardson, 10-team, 8-cat league? This comes back to almost the first discussion we had on the show, where he's a guy that there's a lot of depth in Miami, so there's a chance that it all goes straight to hell. But if things break right, he's a guy that could leap over his draft position. So for me, I'm thinking that same area, kind of no man's land.
Yeah, I like drafting Richardson ahead of some of these other. I would probably take Richardson over Jordan Clarkson every single time. Just love the player, and I think last year what you got to see is at the end of the year he started doing what we thought he would do all year long, and he had injury issues that really just knocked him around. I don't think there'll be as much pressure on him to jump out the chute and be good. He got his contract. He got paid. A lot of things lining up. And then when he gets paid, the organization has faith in him. And so a lot lining up for him. If he's healthy, I think he's going to be a top 100 guy. I have him being taken, I think, a little later than that. Actually, I'll look while I talk. But in general, I'm definitely in favor of a late draft pick with him. It's hard right now to project him as a top 100 value for sure. If everybody stays healthy, then he's really struggling for minutes, and that's going to be a rough thing. So you kind of got to go in there thinking he's a top 125 guy without a doubt, in my mind, at the end of the year, barring some major injury.
It's a good example of the first thing we talked about on this podcast, actually.
Yeah, but this is projecting him with 26, 27 minutes per game, and want to go higher. And really, on any other team, I think he would go higher. The Heat are just so deep. I saw that ESPN thing go out where they basically projected the Heat to have one more win than last year and finish 6th in the East. They're crazy. They're absolutely crazy. This is a good basketball team, and
they were totally destroyed last year. I mean, there were very few teams that were.
Even when they were destroyed, they played well. It was like they were beating good teams. They weren't winning a lot of games overall, but they were beating good teams with all of their dudes injured, and it's just they are the Spurs of the East, and that organization's awesome. And if I stop being in this media gig, I might become a Heat fan.
You might just become the Heat PR guy.
I'm doing a better job than the. No, I'm just kidding. I don't know who the current Heat PR guy is, but he's doing a great job as well. No, they're a great team. Richardson's a good late pick that I think you could probably get with your 11th or 12th round pick.
There were a few other questions that came in about Philadelphia. I probably should have tried to tie those in before we moved away from it, so I'll just try to wrap them all into one big question here. Ben Simmons, is he going to get treated with kid gloves like Embiid did? Rashawn Holmes was a guy that we liked at the end of last year, but he's basically a handcuff now this season. the injury stuff in Philly is so nebulous. Where do you stand on some of the other Sixers besides Joel Embiid?
I'm going to not own a lot of or any Ben Simmons or Markelle Fultz. I'm willing to take that risk. Too many guys that need the ball. Simmons is going to face incredible pressure to miss a lot of open jumpers. That's going to be guys going underneath screens against him. Markelle Fultz will need the ball in his hands. Joel Embiid will need the ball in his hands. So I'm seeing Simmons go off the board incredibly high. Now, the flip side of that argument is he gets a lot of kind of higher percentage shots going to the rim, really banking on his athleticism, where and when he can. So maybe he is effective. Certainly in 8-cat leagues, he's going to be a lot better than in 9-cat leagues. The hard part, though, is I'm seeing – I wonder if I can get a recent ADP report on him going. And speaking of Panador, his fingers are hurting because he's doing our ADP report right now. And, yeah, I'm seeing like 53 as an ADP for Ben Simmons.
Wow.
That is insane, folks. I just, for him in 9-cat leagues, I have serious questions about whether he'll finish in the top 200. And in 8-cat leagues, I think you could take him late, but he's just not going to be there. So Fultz, Fultz had a really small sample size coming out of Washington, something like 26, 28 games, and had these really good shooting percentages. If those claw back at all, he's really not going to be a late round guy. And he's going to go probably same kind of ballpark as Simmons, maybe a little bit later. So, yeah, not optimistic about those guys in fantasy leagues. They're going to go way low.
Valanciunas or Marcin Gortat as your late round center?
I
know this is insane. I'm actually leaning JV on this one. I hate JV.
That's funny. I think I'm going to go Gortat here. Just it's close. It's very close for both of these guys, and I actually have JV a little bit earlier than Gortat in 9-cat leagues.
Gortat's the safer play. He's the safer play.
Yeah, there's no competition for minutes there. He's always got this weird thing where, like, him and John Wall must get into a fight and then not talk for like 3 weeks, and then his production goes, down the chute. But they got no other options, whereas in Toronto, they can go small with Serge at the 5. They've got these kind of younger guys that are not great, but, they're good enough to put a little bit of pressure on Valanciunas. You could see a minutes dip there. You got Casey, what you're getting. It's not like Valanciunas is going to bounce out of this thing and just explode and get a minute per game increase. So I see a lot of downside for Valanciunas, and I'm not high on Gortat really at his age and kind of just the general efficiency dips that we'll probably see from him.
This is such a funny question too, because in I think I'm in 9-cat. No, I'm in 8-cat. Let me turn that off right now. In 9-cat last year, Marcin Gortat was number 55 because he played in all 82 games, and Valanciunas was 51. I mean, these guys were like, it was a wash, basically.
Well, you know what actually is the most interesting thing about this question is it really highlights the center position problem in fantasy leagues this year. The center position, like true centers, guys that don't have power forward eligibility and that are really designed to help your squad in rebounds, blocks, and field goal percentage, they're just not a lot of great names. And there's a lot of kind of middle of the pack values that you're going to get through the Marc Gasol, Hassan Whiteside, Miles Turner, that group up top. You're going to get through that, and you're going to look at your list, and you're going to be like, crap, I don't want any of these guys. And then somebody will take them because they're not great, and they're maybe they get overdrafted or whatever happens. And then you're like, God damn it, I'm going to look at Clint Capella, and you just keep going down this list, and it's really tough, especially in a 2-center league. The value of centers is very sort of, I guess, normalized in the late middle rounds of the draft. So I just think that it's a really interesting question of how are you approaching that problem, because you can solve the problem and get Miles Turner. Good luck with that. But the rest of the league is going to have these lower end centers, and do people panic and create a center run in their draft? And how do you respond to that? Are you okay going without, one of these bigger name centers because you're like, I'm not drafting Jonas Valanciunas in the 5th round.
Yeah,
just not going to do it.
I won't do it. I'm on that train. I'd rather take some of these guys later and, not roll the dice one time late in a draft and just take one of these centers. You're like, like the plotters basically is what you were saying. I'm fine with having that guy on my team. And still, I mean, it depends, best player available situation. If Miles Turner was that guy early in my draft, then I'll take him.
Going BPA, you're going to draft a center in like the 8th or 9th round.
It's probably true. Unless the timing works out, right? Like maybe you're at a spot where the best player available is Karl Anthony Towns or
how are you constructing your team if you're dealing with that center issue? If you're getting guys that can't help you with field goal percentage, blocks, and boards, like what are you doing?
I don't know.
What are you doing, Dan?
What's your outlook on Jonathan Isaac? That's the next question coming from the forum.
I really like Isaac as a player. He's still raw. This could kind of spin which direction. I feel like he's probably not as good as Brandon Ingram was last year, but he comes without a lot of the Brandon Ingram baggage at the free throw line. He's not mental from there. I think he can improve in the shooting and the percentage aspect of the ball game. But he's got the range. He can steal, block. I think that, he's got the makings of a good fantasy game. Now, the problem is you got the center positions completely locked up. There could even be some spillover in rare moments where you play Biz and Vucevic together. Not much, maybe 2, 3, 4 minutes. But still, now you're talking about Aaron Gordon playing the 4. He can't really play the 3 now that they're stocked up in Orlando. So Aaron Gordon, 30 minutes at the 4, you're looking at a really low minute season for Jonathan Isaac. So he needs an injury to matter, I think, in standard leagues. So you're not going to draft him in a standard league, I don't think, unless it's your very last pick and you just feel lucky. Deeper leagues, I think you start to, if you can get that top 150, even top 200 production out of your stash, be able to put him in there in a kind of a pinch and hope for a good game. He's not going to be as good early as he will be late, obviously. I just think that, in a dynasty league, you're definitely, not thrilled, but I'm pretty happy. I do have him in a dynasty league, and I'm expecting him to be a good stat set guy.
Movie Dude says, I'm not used to owning youth. I have Taurean Prince, Buddy Hield, and Brandon Ingram. Should I try to package any of these guys, or are they worth the wait because they're starters on crummy teams?
Because the name's Movie Dude, I just listened to you say that in Joe Pesci's voice.
The youths. Not used to owning youths.
So what was it? Prince?
Prince, Hield, and Ingram.
Who was the middle one?
Buddy Hield.
Oh, Hield and Ingram. And trying to package them up for vets?
Basically, yeah.
I would package Hield and Ingram up. And I think there's, you're seeing Ingram go way early. I don't have the ADP number on
way early. It's like everybody forgot that he was a disaster in both percentages.
That's the thing. And I'm hopeful for Ingram. I think that just looking at him play the game, he shows you flashes, so that there's definitely going to be some improvement coming. And then at the same time, he's so thin and gangly, and he's still growing into his body and still doesn't really know what he wants to do with the ball. That, to me, even if he has a great season, isn't going to help his percentages that much. So it's hard for me to get on the Brandon Ingram hype train. So, I think that now that it's going to be kind of like these other players that have this lack of efficiency in their game, that people don't figure it out until year 3. Right now, they hear Brandon Ingram, they go, 2nd overall pick, Los Angeles Lakers, look at this team. It's they're a hyped up squad. Their over-under is extremely inflated. That people think that Brandon Ingram is going to blow up. And Buddy Hield, the same thing, whether it's locally in Sacramento, whether it's around the league, they look at his numbers in sack, and the shooting percentages were I don't know what the field goal was, but he shot 50% from 3. Everybody thinks he's the guy. Well, he's probably not going to be the guy. And so package those two together. See if you can get a top 75 asset like James Johnson. That would move the needle for your team. Not a lot of people know that James Johnson was good last year.
It's true. It's funny, but true.
And you just did the old 2-for-1. You know, you now free up a roster spot and go out and pick up Bogdan Bogdanovic.
There you go. Does the B150 coincide with the draft guide player profiles in regards to the evals? I would say most likely, but I'll let you answer that one.
Yeah, for the most part. I mean, you know, me and Mike Panador wrote most of it, and so we see eye to eye on a lot of stuff. And you know, as the projections get cranked out, you know, he's got access to them. So if he ever needs to look at anything, he could just take a look and see where I'm at on it. So I'd say 9 out of 10 times, maybe even 95 out of 100 times, they're going to be in that same ballpark. So it's a real good that if you're reading player profiles, I can't recommend those enough. Not only do the injury history alone put you in a great position to know how injured this guy's been for over his career, but you just get the kind of color behind these ranks here. So you just, you know, if you get the B150 by itself, you see, you know, let's go Jamal Murray and blah, blah, blah number. And it's like, what? That doesn't, you know, like that number is so much lower than everybody else's. Well, here's why, you know, and it's in a paragraph form.
Go buy it. Go to hoop-ball.com and click on draft guide and do our survey at Libsyn and then get $2 off.
Well, really, Panda did type at least 100 and what is it? He did about half of it. So, you know, he typed a good 100,000 words probably so far.
Pretty good start. It's a good start. Zach LaVine, are you stashing him anywhere? The news right now is murky.
Yeah, you know, I mentioned in a pod over the summer or late last year that I felt like Zach LaVine would be on a lot of my teams, and I don't think that's going to be the case anymore after second further evaluation. The biggest thing that you're going to see is the minute decrease. It's daunting. Like Tibbs just plays his guys ridiculously, and now coming off ACL and just going to a normal situation, it's going to be at a minimum a dip down to 33, I think. So that hurts him tremendously. He might get helped by the Dwayne Wade exodus whenever that happens. But I really don't think even with Dwayne Wade around that he would – like I think his usage is going to be fairly stable no matter what. So we're really asking ourselves, can this freak of nature take another step forward despite an ACL? And that I'm having a hard time betting on.
Yeah, tough year for him.
Yeah, it's rough because I really, really like him as a player. He had an amazing shooting year last year, just phenomenal.
Seems like you just kind of have to wait, and if you hear anything, just be fast. You got to hope, right?
He can go up in my rankings if we get reports that he's ready for the year and he's just going to kind of be a normal player.
But as it stands, I mean, it's tough to hold a guy for 2 or 3 months. That's a killer to a fantasy team, especially if you're playing all your guys. I mean, you might lose your head-to-head league. If there's no cap.
Yeah, formats matter with that.
Big way. Isaiah Thomas fell to the 6th round in Movie Dudes League. Should he kick himself for not taking him in the 5th? But he's another nebulous injury guy.
You know, there was this tweet that hit the radar and nobody ran with it. And it was
pizza, sauce, and dedication?
No. It was Cleveland to hold special announcements. And it had like 2 of their doctors from Cleveland Clinic and general manager and, you know, the whole bit. And then nobody like corroborated the kind of that release from Cleveland. So I'm guessing that was some sort of a business side kind of a deal where they talked about how great Cleveland Clinic is and had nothing to do with Isaiah Thomas. If it had been, we would have heard about it by now. So I think we're still in that nebulous don't know stage. So if there's no like, you know, medical announcement from Woj at this point, who would be the guy, I can almost guarantee Woj would get the information first with this particular situation. He, in a 5th round is an insane value. In fact, I mean, I can build an argument to take him in the 4th with the current news that we have, presuming that piece of info that hit the net that was really unsourced, like has 0 validity to it. I can take him in the 4th. We're just, you get a little bit of gambling at that point, and I think you could wait and get him in the 5th. So, I mean, it's hard. It just depends on the league and who's crazy and who's not. But, yeah, you might kick yourself a little bit. Then at the same time, if he gets announced that he's missing, you know, until December, January, you saved yourself a 5th round pick. So everything's a gamble right now with Isaiah.
we may have more news in the next couple of weeks. Hopefully your drafts are not happening immediately following this live chat. I should have noticed this question before. Bogdanovich, are you drafting him anywhere, or is he a wait and see guy?
No, I'm definitely drafting Bogdanovich. Poor man CJ McCollum. He is ready to come in and be, for the Kings. There's really only two guys that are better than him in my mind, and that's Garrett Temple and George Hill, not in that order. With Temple, the lockdown defense is really hard to keep off the floor. And then with Bogdanovich, he can control tempo offensively. The combo of those two is actually really, really potent when you think about it. So, but people here, they got Buddy, the Buddy Hield hype. You got Malachi Richardson. You've got De'Aaron Fox that needs minutes. You got this log jam. But when you kind of look at it, and I've never accused the Kings of getting the minutes per game right, but he is going to be a vital cog for that team. And I think that Jaeger and the organization are behind that. So I think he's going to get more minutes than everybody thinks. I think he's going to produce better than people think. So I guess I'm giving up one of the sleepers here. I think you can get him late. He's going to be on a lot of my teams.
Well, there you go. You mentioned Jamal Murray before. We actually talked about him on a podcast last week, but the question is basically, how much of the hype should I buy? And Aaron, would you like me to answer this one for us?
Yes, please. I would like a sip of coffee, sir.
Sell. I'm like ringing the bell over here. Jamal Murray is a guy that Aaron and I talked about last week on the pod as a guy that most other websites have a lot higher than we do here at Hoopball, largely for the reasons that he's not a great field goal percentage guy. He's not going to be the primary dude on that team. And frankly, his abilities overlap a decent amount with a guy like Gary Harris, who's probably a little bit better at those things, at slashing, at shooting. And so for Murray, when he's not orchestrating the offense, if he's not the guy holding the ball the entire ball game, it's tough for him to kind of get up and over that hump. And right now, he is at least the fourth option on this team, possibly the fifth, depending on how the night is going. So don't buy that much of the hype. What did I miss? Anything?
Nothing, I don't think. No.
Okay, great. Let's see here. 11 team, 9 cat roto. It doesn't even matter. Anything over 10, the answer to this question is going to be the same, but I'm going to ask it anyway. I am the fourth pick. Should I trade down to try to get a better player in the second round? No.
You said first round pick, right?
Fourth pick overall. Should I trade down in the first round because the wraparound is long and it might hurt the players you get in the second round? This comes back to the discussion of player values and how they topple. The higher you can get in the first round, the better. The difference between players between 1 and 15 is big. The difference between 15 and 20 starts to get a little smaller, and so on and so forth. Do not give up the top few picks in your draft. I feel like I'm doing pretty well right now.
Right there.
Let's see what else we got. I'm able to handle a few of these myself, giving you a brief rest.
Yeah, can I go do some stuff?
Let's see. Nerlens Noel. Here's a question coming up, and then we'll basically wrap this thing up because I think we're right around the hour mark on the recorded portion of the podcast. This is Movie Dude again. Movie Dude, you're getting a lot of playtime on this one. Am I nuts in thinking Nerlens, show me the money, Noel will go stat stuffing to get overpaid next summer? This is a question that you and I was texting you about this the other night to say what really happened in that whole situation. Like, did Noel say, I'm going to bet on me? Or did the Mavs say, you got no choice but to bet on you?
Yeah, he had no choice. That solves that mystery. But he's in the middle of an agent soap opera that I don't even fully understand at this point. So with that, especially with Mark Cuban, who's kind of got his preferred agents that he gets, players from, you just can't, I gotta just throw all that stuff out. When you hear like Nerlens Noel wanted a whatever contract, this is a common way to smear players. And if you're not going to, and not saying who would smear him, but there's a couple targets that it could be, and it's hard to even pick out which one, but you make it seem like the guy wants too much money, but I don't think anybody thought Nerlens Noel was in a great negotiating position heading into this summer. He coming off of a season where he really struggled to play minutes.
Yeah, he played like 60% of the season.
Yeah, knee surgeries, and just this isn't the year that he was going to go out there and get a great offer, especially once we saw the market chill the way that it did. So when somebody puts that out, it's like, we're going to make Nerlens look like an idiot. And so I don't buy that. As far as him getting his stats, his game is so steady in certain respects. Like, he's going to get blocks, he's going to get steals. I think he'd probably improve a little bit from the line. He's a good complement to Dirk Nowitzki. All things considered, he's in a great spot, and he's in a great spot to get his next deal. But we just got to see that he can actually play. If he is physically able to, he could play 35 minutes, theoretically, for this particular squad. It's not like they got a bunch of depth, that's begging to steal his minutes. It's, basically a situation. If he could handle 24 minutes, that's what he's going to get. And I just don't have the answer to that right now. He is a guy like, Joel Embiid that you want to see participating in workouts and being on the court and not being saved for the season, which is a huge red flag.
Yeah. Last year, Noel was the number 60 player in fantasy sports. He played in 16 ball games. Maybe that's not the best way to look at it, since it's, some guys played more games than others just because of scheduling stuff. But over that same stretch, by average, he was a top 85 guy in 21 minutes per game. So it's always kind of been the case with Noel. If he can get up and over that half a ball game mark, then he becomes a pretty interesting fantasy player. If not, then he becomes a guy that you want to rip your hair out, because he'll go for a massive game and then 4 or 5 stinkers where, Rick Carlisle yanks him or something. Or he gets hurt. That's certainly also a possibility. Bruski, I'm wrapping it up on this bad boy. This was the final preseason free live chat. Am I getting that right? I want to make sure I'm doing that right. If you want to continue to see the live chats before the season begins, Aaron and I will be talking about draft prep. We'll get some of the other contributors and pros mixed into this bad boy. Go get the season pass, get the draft guide, get all that good stuff. Go to hoop-ball.com, click on draft guide, or follow at hoopball tweets, because the offers are going out on that bad boy around the clock. I see you've set up a scheduled release on the Hoopball Twitter account. Nicely done, Aaron.
Yeah, we try, and we have some possibly big things coming through the pipeline, and I don't want to say what they might be, but just throw that out there. And yeah, this is, especially when we get into draft season, like the actual nitty gritty of preseason games and all the big time reports and injuries. There's always one injury in preseason that throws everything off. This type of back and forth is going to become crucial for you guys. So definitely get plugged into the draft guide tonight while it's nice and cheap. And then if not, there's still plenty of ways to get into touch with us, but we will be, heading the books and trying to make sure that our draft guide subscribers get first run. And yeah, that's all I got for you, Dan.
Take the survey. Go to survey.libsyn.com/fantasy-NBA today. It is legitimately less than 1 minute. It's the fastest survey.
It's less than 10 seconds. It's the dumbest survey I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's totally dumb. But
what is the purpose of this?
And we can't tell if you've done it. Only Libsyn can see. So if you send us a screenshot, then Aaron will give you a $2 coupon. You can save a few extra dollars on whatever good stuff you get at Hoopball. And if you feel so inclined, if you're like, man, I only spent like 9 seconds on this thing, I want to do more stuff for these guys, rate and review the podcast. Go to Fantasy NBA Today on iTunes, and that'll take about 90 seconds. So throw it all together and spend 2 minutes helping us out. He is Aaron Bruski. I am Dan Besbris. This was the Fantasy NBA Today live Q&A, a special Wednesday edition. Follow us on Twitter. You know the whole deal. We'll talk to you tomorrow.